So here, I did the math, figuring out how old Moses was when he died, how long he was a ruler over Israelites, how old Joshua was, and different things when he died and everything. And I figured out Joshua is about 20 years old. Okay, so he's about 20, and he is the chief of staff. He is the commander of the Israelites army. And I really think it's cool how it looks like the Lord is already preparing Joshua for the huge test he's going to have of conquering all the peoples of the Promised Land. Because he's making him a general at 20 and giving him success and giving him combat experience long before he's going to need it to wipe out people after people after people when he goes into the Promised Land. Also, if you turn to Numbers 13, Joshua is one of the 12 spies who went behind enemy lines for 40 days. This is one of my favorite stories because Joshua and Caleb were the only two people that came back and said, "Yeah, we can take these guys." The 10 other spies were like, "No, they're too huge. They're like giants, and all their cities are fortified, and there's no way we can do it." But Joshua and Caleb were both like, "Yeah, we can take these guys." And Caleb happens to be my middle name, so I'm like a double spy. 0014. But anyway, both of those guys had faith enough to know that God would take care of them, that they could take the guys in the Promised Land. Unfortunately, the Israelites listened to the masses, and they went with the 10 other spies who said, "No, we can't take them." And as a result, the Israelites then spent 40 years in the desert because of their disobedience. And Moses was not allowed into the Promised Land. Nobody from that generation was allowed into the Promised Land except for Joshua and Caleb, who both said, "Yeah, we can take these guys." And I think this is important too for the character of Joshua because he's been behind enemy lines. You know, how many of you guys have ever gone behind lines with people that want to kill you? You know, it's difficult and it's scary, but you have to have courage and you have to be strong in order to do that. And I think Joshua had it. The other thing we see is in Exodus 24, and if you guys turn there with a finger in Exodus 24 and also in 32, chapter 32, we see Moses went up to meet God on top of this mountain, and Joshua, Moses' assistant, went with him. And what we see is, well, it started out with all the elders, and they went up about halfway, and then Joshua and Moses kept on going. And it's not clear if it doesn't look like Joshua actually went up into the cloud to talk to God, but Moses was up there for 40 days and 40 nights, and Joshua was left on the side of this mountain all by himself. Okay, because if you look over in chapter 32, when they're coming down off of the mountain, Joshua doesn't know what's going on in the camp. And he clearly hasn't been with Moses yet because he's like, because Joshua tells Moses, "It sounds like war in the camp." But what we find there is Joshua's just dedication and his loyalty to Moses, which is also key to understanding this in Joshua chapter 1. Because Joshua loved Moses. I mean, the people of Israel, it sounded like a war in the camp because they were like, "Moses has been gone for 40 days. He's dead. Forget about him. Let's do our own thing." You know. But Moses was actually up in the cloud on top of the mountain talking to God. And in talking to God, he then wrote 7 chapters worth of knowledge. Everything from chapter 24 to chapter 32 is everything that God told Moses while he was up there for 40 days and 40 nights. And Joshua was staying on the side of that mountain. So this guy is dedicated, and he's obedient. And he's also tough. If you guys have ever been on top of a mountain, you know the winds are a lot higher up there, and it's a lot colder up there. And just sitting there by yourself, just freezing for 40 days, not exactly for the weak and faint of heart. So what do we know of Joshua? We know he's a battle-hardened warrior. He led the Israelites into battle already. He's pretty much fearless because he's been a spy behind enemy lines for 40 days, and he's very dedicated and obedient and just all-around tough guy for being on the side of the mountain all by himself. So I don't think he's scared. So why is God telling Joshua to be strong and courageous 3 different times in Joshua chapter 1? Well, let's read it one more time. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all these people, the land which I am giving to them, the children of Israel, and every place the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you. As I said to Moses, from the wilderness of this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and all the way to the great sea toward the going down of the sun shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and of good courage, for this people you shall divide as an inheritance in the land which I swore their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law that Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage? Do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Now, I think part of God's charge here to Joshua is that Joshua is grieving a little bit. He's looked up to Moses basically his entire adult life, and now Moses is dead. So Joshua is grieving a little bit, and God is kind of comforting him some, but he's also preparing him for battle. And in preparing him for battle, he doesn't just prepare him for battle and say, be strong and courageous. He says, be strong and courageous because you need to obey, be strong and courageous to obey the laws that I have commanded you. And in doing so, you will be successful. Okay? He's not necessarily telling him to be strong and courageous against his foes, because Joshua's pretty much got that covered. All right, we've all established that he's a battle-hardened warrior, he was a spy, I think he's got that taken care of. The biggest thing God's telling him is to be strong and courageous, to follow and obey his laws, and to meditate on them day and night. I think a lot of people get hung up on the be strong and courageous part, and they think, hey, we just need to be strong and courageous. No, you need to be strong and courageous to obey the laws of God. You need to be strong and courageous to read his word every single day and every single night, and meditate on it day and night. And in doing so, you'll have success. Joshua was very strong. He was very courageous, and he did this. The only time that the Israelites were defeated at all in the entire book of Joshua. The entire book of Joshua is basically summation of all the peoples they just massacred, right? I mean, they just go and take out this people and that people and the other people, and they all have hard names. So I didn't try to say it. But in chapter 7, is the only time that they did not win. And the reason they did not win was because Achan decided to steal some idols, and he hid them. And they were specifically commanded not to. And because of that, the entire nation suffered for it. And when Joshua found out, they went and found the idols, and basically the earth swallowed him and his entire family up, and they all died. And they purged the nation of people who were obeying the Lord. But the biggest thing here is Joshua is telling the people to obey the Lord, to be strong and courageous, to obey the Lord and do everything he's already commanded them. And he reiterates that at the very end of the book. In chapter 24, he tells them to remember that because they obeyed the Lord, that he brought them into the promised land, and they were able to live in houses that they did not build, cities they did not build. And they were able to reap the crops that they did not sow. And that's huge. So I think as Christians today, the biggest takeaway that we can have from this section of the Bible is not to be strong and courageous, because that's what everybody automatically jumps to. But it's to be strong and courageous, to read and understand God's word every single day. And it's a struggle. I know. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And but it's something that we should do. Christians don't have a reason not to read the Bible every day. I mean, people will give you excuses after excuses and say, well, the battery just totally died. People give you excuses and say, you know, when I get up in the morning, I'm just too tired just to focus, or at night, I'm having a... They tell you, you know, in the morning I'm just I can't focus because I'm still not awake. Or if it's at night, it's been a long, hard day and I'm tired and I can't really focus. You know, those are lies from the devil. And the devil is the father of lies because he knows that if you start reading his word every single day and every single night, then you will... Because the devil knows that if you start reading his word every single day and every single night, you're going to obey the Lord, and his work is going to be 10 times harder. And if you look back in verse 8 of Joshua chapter 1, the book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, that you deserve to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. And this is not the only place God tells us that we should read his word every day. If you turn over to Deuteronomy 17, in verse 18, we see God is prepping the Israelites for a king, because he knows they're going to have a king one day. So it says, and it shall be when he sits, talking about the king, sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself a copy of this law in a book, from the one before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him as he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and be careful to observe the words of his law and these statutes, that his heart may not be lifted above his burdens, that he may not turn aside from the commandments to the right hand or to the left, that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. Almost exactly word for word what God is telling Joshua in Joshua chapter 1. You need to obey. You need to read the word of God in order to obey him, and in doing so, you will have success. And in Proverbs 1:7 it says, "Fear the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." So if you look at the sermon title today, I said God's charge to me. But it's really God's charge to the king of Israel, God's charge to Joshua, and hopefully after today, God's charge to you is to read his word every day and every night. In doing so, you'll feel the Lord and have success.